So last week, I was invited to a remote preview event for Assassin's Creed Shadows. I got to play more than 3 hours of the game early with a mix of story and exploration missions. I already uploaded video showcasing non-stop gameplay earlier, and in this video I'm going to be giving my impressions of the AC Shadows preview build. Before we get started, I wanted to thank Ubisoft Canada for giving me this early opportunity to try the game. This video will also not feature any cutscenes or story to avoid spoilers and such, so no worries there. I also need to stress that this was an online remote event, meaning I was playing the demo from my house while being connected to a demo machine elsewhere. There was a ton of lag leading to many mistimed parries, dodges, and there was plenty of chaos. Since this type of online lag won't be present in the actual release of the game, I'm not going to really talk about it, but please do try to excuse my gameplay here. Now to start, let's get the story out of the way. I'm going to do my very best to not spoil the story. The event started with a 40 minutes intro to the story of the game. This was the prologue to AC Shadows, where we get to see the two protagonists of the game, Yasuke and Naoe. With Yasuke, we get to learn about how he came into the service of Lord Nobunaga, and with Naoe, we get to see the events that send her on a path of vengeance. And yeah, that's it. I don't really want to spoil too much here, as many famous characters from this era are mentioned and seen. We also get to see the villains and how they come into play with the story. This part took about 30 to 40 minutes, and after the prologue finished, we moved several hours further into the game, where we find ourselves in the Harma province doing some missions. From what I experienced with the story so far, it left me wanting more. The villains seemed mysterious, Yasuke and Nobunaga's relationship was intriguing, and I was curious to see how it matured. And Naoe's lineage was what interested me the most. The game features English voices as well as a mode that has complete Japanese voices to fit the setting. I played with the English voices as I was already facing lag and I didn't really want to read while I was in combat as well. Yasuke's English voice is very calm even during tense situations. He seemed like a gentle giant but was always ready for a fight. Now, with previous trailers and promo materials, we heard Naoe's voice, and many expressed concerns that she was lifeless. While there are moments where some of her line delivery felt a little flat, for the most part during cutscenes and story bits, the voice actress does a decent job of conveying emotion, especially that prologue. I do hope we see more range with Yasuke's character and voice for the full launch though. The issue I did notice was that outside of the cutscenes, the delivery during normal dialogues were definitely feeling a bit flat from both the characters. This is something that is concerning for the full release. Now let's get into the gameplay, which is what I think many people will be interested in. Assassin's Creed as a franchise has many games with many gameplay iterations. So I can't just point to one single game and say this is what AC Shadows plays like. It actually uses gameplay elements from its predecessors and tries to build on it. But in terms of combat and exploration, the game reminds me of AC Odyssey and AC Valhalla the most. The reason I say that is because of the combat. The original AC games focused mostly on assassinations and the use of the hidden blade. Newer games in the series focus more on other melee weapons and having special abilities tied to them. This is mostly evident with Odyssey and Valhalla, where you had a slew of different weapons you can use, different rarities, power levels, and a multitude of weapon abilities you can use during combat. Of course, you can still use stealth to take out enemies with the hidden blade, but with more RPG mechanics added to the newer games, HP inflation was something of an issue. Suddenly, you can't insta-kill enemies or assassinate bulkier enemies with the hidden blade, forcing us to rely on combat instead. While some story-based missions allowed insta-kills with the hidden blade, a majority of the open-world gameplay wouldn't allow us to instantly assassinate enemies with the use of the hidden blade. Now, this was a staple to the series till AC Origins released. AC Shadows sadly falls into the newer iterations where the hidden blade is also kind of underpowered. You can still use it to get some quick stealth kills in specific story-based missions and such, but a majority of enemies in the open world will have bulkier HP and armor. At best, you will severely hurt them and then have to resort to melee combat to finish them off. Another thing to mention is that Naoe is the only one who gets to use the hidden blade this time around. Yasuke adopts a bruiser style combat, while Naoe can use the hidden blade both in stealth and in melee combat. This comes into play when choosing who to use when tackling missions. Yasuke has high defense and health, hits like a truck, has access to large devastating weapons, and can pretty much steamroll through sections and even charge through doors like the Kool-Aid Man. But all that bulk means he's a little slower, cannot parkour like Naoe, and doesn't have access to stealth or even the rope mechanic that allows Naoe to climb and scale buildings with ease. Now, it has recently been brought to my attention that you can go into settings and turn on an option to allow the Hidden Blade to get 100% insta kills while doing stealth assassinations. While this sounds amazing and all, I can't confirm the validity of this claim because I don't really have access to the preview build anymore. At best, I can ask my PR to confirm this, and I can leave a pinned comment with the answer. Otherwise, we'll have to wait for the launch to confirm this specific point. When it comes to combat, Yasuke has access to the long katana, a naginata, giant club called kanabo, a bow, and a rifle called teppo. Each of these weapons have their own weapon mastery trees and weapon abilities. This is very similar to Odyssey and Valhalla. Once unlocked, you can slot the weapon abilities to your shortcut for use. Attacking enemies, parrying, and perfect dodges fill up gold nodes on the top of the health bar on the bottom left, which indicates when you can use these weapon abilities. The weapon attacks do have some flair to them, where the whole screen turns black and white like an old Japanese samurai movie, and the only color you see is red for the blood you slash off enemies. This is a really nice effect and keeps you visually entertained. The animations are really well done in combat and with the weapon attacks. But this gameplay loop was established in the previous titles mentioned earlier. This game does focus a lot more on parries and perfect dodges as enemies are pretty relentless. They attack in unison, charge when you back off to heal, as well as use range attacks to whittle you down non-stop. Naoe, on the other hand, has access to weapons like the katana, kusarigama, and a short blade called the tanto, which also allows you to use the hidden blade in combat with it. She has less HP, but to compensate for it, she is much faster with her movements, has quick dodges, fast attacks, and can use her speed to parkour out of a rough situation. I did find the combat for Naoe really cool as she has a variety of acrobatic animations. In the demo, she was also able to call in 2 assassin helpers to fight alongside her. Now, I'm not really sure if Yasuke can do this as well, but I only saw this mechanic when I was controlling Naoe. Both Yasuke and Naoe get access to tools such as throwing knives, smoke bombs, etc. These help deal with a multitude of enemies at once. Again, I'm not sure if specific tools are tied to specific characters, but I'll have to confirm this when the game fully launches. Overall, I found the combat pretty fun and engaging, but I do have some issues. The first one being the spam of range attacks from enemies. There's just too much. Sometimes you'll be engaging 4 to 5 enemies in melee and 3 or 4 enemies will be throwing knives or using bows or rifles to shoot you all at once. Now you might be thinking, Ruben, you silly man, just toss a smoke bomb and back off and reorient yourself. Well, you'd be right about 50%. There are smoke bombs and throwing knives you can use yourself, but the control scheme for them is just asinine. You have to hold L2 to go into aim mode and then press R2 to throw the smoke bomb or throwing knife. Now this is okay. Now if you really want to take your time and aim, this is fine, but what if you want to quick use a tool? Well, it used to be just one button. Scroll to that tool or use a weapon wheel to select the tool and press the assign button to toss the tool. Simple, right? Well, this was established as a simple control scheme in previous AC titles. In this game, the way to quick use a tool is to hold L2 to go into aim mode and then press triangle to quick use it. It just doesn't really make sense. When you're in the heat of the battle, you want to press a single button to use a smoke bomb quickly to get out of a tricky situation. Now you gotta hold a button to get into aiming mode first and then press another button to quick use it. It just feels too slow. Some people won't really care about this, but to me this ruins the flow of the combat a lot. And I just feel like the control scheme has actually gone backwards from previous AC titles. I didn't get a chance to see if there are alternative control schemes with my limited time with the preview, but I really hope they do have it for launch. Next issue I had with the combat is when your character randomly starts doing parkour when in the middle of a fight. Too many times I've run into a situation where I would be target locked with an enemy and fight several other enemies at the same time. And when trying to back up to assess the battlefield, Yasuke or Naoe would randomly start climbing a wall or vault over a ledge. Now, this was an issue with previous AC games, but I just feel like with every new AC release, this problem actually gets worse. It's pretty simple. When I'm in combat, target locked with an enemy, 99% of the time, I'm pretty sure I want to fight the enemy without trying to climb a wall like a crazy person. Now, maybe that 0.01% chance is when I'm actually hemorrhaging on one side of my brain. Who knows? Regardless, this issue needs to be looked into. I had a random situation where Naoe was surrounded by assassins, and when trying to dodge backwards, she ran into a shrine lamp and started climbing it and got killed. It's moments like these when you get kicked out of the gaming experience and want to just throw the controller and yourself outside your window. And those are pretty much my issues and complaints with the combat. Not too many, but hopefully some of these can be fixed as we move forward. Now that I've gone over the combat in length, let's talk about moments in the game when choices are given to play either as Yasuke or Naoe. If you're planning to brute force through combat encounters, go with Yasuke, and if you're the stealthy type, go with Naoe as she's nimble enough to get through areas completely unseen. The game does allow you to choose, but there is an option to allow the game to choose in a mode called Canon Mode. In this mode, you will not be given the choice of who to use in certain missions and just follow the story as intended. I did prefer having choices in how I tackled missions, so I chose not to use the Canon Mode. Plus, it does allow replayability as these types of missions can be handled in two ways. Next, let's talk about the world and exploration. First thing to look at is the map. It's quite large. Plenty of provinces to visit, plenty of activities, locations to discover, and viewpoints to climb and perform leaps of faith with. Now, I don't really think this map is larger than the map we saw in Odyssey or Valhalla, but it's still quite large. I also mentioned locations to discover. Yes, this game is a bit different. Instead of all the locations appearing on the map once you hit a waypoint like in previous games, you gotta actually observe these points from the viewpoints to get a question mark added to your map. You can then go and explore each question mark yourself and find out what these locations turn out to be. Another change is the way missions work now. The devs wanted to let the players explore and figure out the missions and use clues to get to the goal. In that sense, there are no waypoints that guide you. Instead of trying to figure out these clues, you can simply ask one of your scouts to explore a region on the map to figure out a general waypoint for your quest. These scouts can be recruited throughout your journey. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to see how this recruiting process worked, so that's something to look out for launch. Another thing to mention is this waypoint thing or this exploration mechanic that devs are talking about. This was present in, I think, Valhalla and in Odyssey, if I remember correctly, where you have the exploration mode when you start the game. I'm pretty sure there was also a setting for a guided mode. Now, I'm not really sure if this game has a guided mode. The devs were really touting about the fact that they wanted the players to explore, so I'm not really sure if they will offer a guided mode. We'll just have to wait and see when the game actually launches. Now, viewpoints aren't the only places you can fast travel to, as you can unlock hideouts throughout the map for you to get rations, store equipment, and oversee the recruit's interface. Now, I didn't have much time to explore the map, so I only got to see one type of side activity, but I was assured there are plenty of other types of side activities as well. The one I got to experience is sketching wildlife. Basically, there will be a sketch symbol on your map. These locations hold rare animals that you can approach very slowly, observe, and draw sketches of. This gives you points to level up your skills and stuff. I did it a couple of times and they were pretty simple to do.
Perfect.
Now, when it comes to exploration, both Yasuke and Naoe can walk, run, climb, as well as ride a horse. You can pretty much whistle to call your horse in places where the horse riding is allowed. As mentioned earlier, Yasuke is slower in movement, while Naoe is quick and nimble. This is further emphasized by the fact that Naoe gets a horse stance while riding the horse. She can basically get into a stance where she is standing on top of the horse to perform a jump attack when you get close to an enemy. Yasuke, on the other hand, cannot do this, and can only get off the horse the regular way. Naoe also has the climbing rope tool, which allows her to scale buildings and climbing sections with ease. Yasuke, though, is better off on the ground. While I was playing the game, I was told there was a dynamic day and night cycle as well as dynamic seasons. Seasons can change depending on the story as well as with certain events and overworld missions. That's all the information I got about this topic. You can also swim in the game. I never really tried swimming with Yasuke, but now I did it with ease as well as diving underwater and swimming underwater. Not sure if this will come into play for missions and stuff, but it helps with the exploration. Overall, the environments look great in my opinion and varied from lush meadows to historical city buildings. In this aspect, AC series always delivers, so no real issues here. With my session of 3+ hours, I didn't run into any crashes, so that was also a good sign. Of course, with this being a work in progress build, a lot can change for the final version. The performance was pretty solid as well. Even with the footage you're seeing, it's running at solid 60 FPS, but that's to be expected out of a PC version of a game. Since this is a remote event, I can't really comment on these things, and I will go more in depth come launch. But overall, I did have fun with my time with the preview build. Still, I am cautiously optimistic. I've listed the issues I've had with the combat already, and I am concerned with how the story would unfold. AC games usually start off with strong stories and many times fumble the finale. Still, I'm always hoping for the best for this series. Now we just have to wait for the game to launch in a couple months. I will be back with another video for the launch version impressions and review, so stay tuned for that. But that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys found it informational and enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.